Okay, so have you ever like walked through a farmer's market,
Hmm.
and seen all those like amazing fruits and vegetables?
Oh, yeah, totally. Or even like just watching a documentary about, people living sustainably off the land and like
Yeah.
growing their own food.
Exactly. It
Yeah.
just sparks this desire, right, to
Yeah.
kind of get back to basics,
Right.
connect with nature a little bit.
Yeah. It makes you want to like grow something yourself, even if it's just a few herbs.
Exactly. So that's what we're diving into today for you, the learner. How to get started with a mini kitchen garden. Something manageable, but also environmentally conscious.
Yeah. And doing it in a way that's not going to, completely overwhelm you.
Right. We want to keep it fun and simple.
Absolutely.
So we've been looking at some interesting stuff, actually. Notes from Kesser and Steen's work on environment and innovation. Steen's initial foray into raised beds.
Oh, yeah. And that discovery about Hugelkultur, I mean, that's a whole other level.
It is. And then, of course, we got to talk about weeds. Like, they're the nemesis of every gardener, right?
Ugh, tell me about it. And we'll touch on why that plastic landscape fabric, it's not always the best solution.
Yeah, it can be a bit of a trap, actually.
Definitely.
So our goal today is to really give you some practical, eco-friendly ideas to get your mini garden going. And avoid some of those common beginner mistakes. Help you think about gardening through a sustainability lens.
Like thinking about the long-term impact of your choices.
Exactly. So let's start at the beginning. This whole kitchen garden idea, it actually stemmed from Steen's desire to make a positive environmental impact at home.
Right, like starting small, making a difference in his own backyard, so to speak.
Yeah, and initially his ambition was pretty modest, just a couple of strawberry plants.
A great starting point, simple and rewarding. Everyone loves fresh strawberries.
Totally. But then, as you know, happens with everything, you start researching and one question leads to another.
The research rabbit hole.
Exactly. So Steen is on YouTube watching these videos about raised beds.
Probably trying to figure out the best way to plant those strawberries right.
Yep. And he stumbles upon this video where someone is not happy with their raised beds.
Oh no, what happened?
They were falling apart after just a few years. And, Steen had this idea that raised beds were mostly for vegetables.
Right, like a dedicated veggie plot.
So it made him question the whole raised bed concept.
Yeah, I mean, it's a common misconception. Raised beds are fantastic for veggies, but their benefits, they apply to so many other plants too.
Right. Improved drainage, better soil control.
Yeah.
Not just for tomatoes and cucumbers.
Exactly. So this confusion is actually a great segue into talking about the pros and cons of raised beds.
Totally, which is what led Steen to seek some Godrad from Oma over at Kesser's.
Godarod.
Yes, Danish directly translates to good advice.
Mm-hmm.
But in this context, it sounds like it came with a side of yummy waffle iron pancakes.
Oh, wow. Now that's my kind of advice session. Sharing knowledge over a delicious meal.
Right. So picture this. Oma with a plate of warm pancakes explaining the ins and outs of raised beds.
So cozy. Okay, but let's get to the good stuff. What are the advantages of raised beds?
Well, first off, you get much better drainage. This is crucial for a lot of plants, especially those that are prone to root rot.
Oh, yeah, makes sense. You don't want soggy roots.
Yep. And then you have complete control over the soil quality and the nutrients. You can literally tailor the growing medium to your plant's specific needs.
That's a huge plus, like creating the perfect little ecosystem.
And let's be real here, less bending and kneeling.
Yeah.
That's a big win for a lot of us.
Right. Makes gardening more accessible and enjoyable. No more backaches.
And here's a bonus. The raised beds warm up quicker in the spring because they're elevated and have more surface area exposed to the sun.
Oh, that's clever. It extends your growing season.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can get a head start on those spring plantings.
Okay, so lots of pros, but we got to talk about the potential downsides too, right?
Yeah.
To give the learner a balanced view.
Absolutely. First off, there's the initial investment. Whether you're buying pre-made beds or materials to build your own ready to come, it's going to cost you something.
Yeah, that's true.
And because that soil drains so well, it can also dry out faster, so you might need to water more often.
Okay, that's something to consider.
And filling a large raised bed with soil, that's be a lot of work. Hauling all those back.
Yeah, that's a workout for sure.
And as Steen suspected, raised beds aren't ideal for every plant. If you have something with deep roots, it might do better planted directly in the ground.
Makes sense. Some plants need that freedom to stretch out.
Right, so it really depends on your needs, your space, and what you want to grow.
Okay, so we've covered the pros and cons of raised beds. But now let's talk about the elephant in the room, shall we?
Soil.
The foundation of any good garden.
And it can get expensive. All those bags of topsoil and compost can add up.
Yeah, especially if you're filling multiple raised beds. It can put a dent in your wallet.
But Steen, being the resourceful guy, he did some digging and came to Oma with a bunch of ideas for creating healthy soil on a budget.
Ooh, I love this. Sustainable and affordable.
Exactly. So first on his list, compost. Turning kitchen scraps, garden waste, even cardboard into gardening gold.
It's amazing what you can do with things you'd normally just throw away.
Right. And compost is so beneficial. It improves soil structure, makes sandy soil hold water better, helps clay soil drain better.
And it's packed with nutrients. It's like a slow-release fertilizer.
Exactly. It feeds your plants over time. So good for the environment and your garden.
Okay, what else was on Steen's list?
Soil improvement. Instead of buying all new soil, he suggested looking at your existing garden soil and amending it.
Ah, smart. Work with what you've got.
Right. Add compost, sand, clay, depending on what your soil needs.
So much more sustainable than trucking in tons of new soil.
Then there's green manure. Have you heard of this?
I have. It's fascinating.
You plant specific crops like clover, spinach, buckwheat, not to eat, but to dig back into the soil later.
It's like a natural fertilizer and soil conditioner.
Exactly. Prevents erosion, suppresses weeds while it's growing, and then adds tons of organic matter and nutrients when you till it in.
So smart.
Steen also had the idea of reusing old potting soil,
Oh.
from containers and window boxes.
Oh, yeah. Instead of tossing it out, just mix it with some fresh compost and maybe a bit of sand.
Revitalizes it for another season.
Great way to minimize waste.
And this is a big one. Both Oma and Steen are very aware of choosing sphagnum-free soil.
That's so important. Peatlands are vital ecosystems. We need to protect them.
Exactly. Harvesting sphagnum moss can be really damaging.
So opting for alternatives is a much more responsible choice.
And finally, Steen's DIY soil mix, combining topsoil, compost, and sand in the right proportions.
It gives you total control over what goes into your soil.
And it's super budget-friendly.
I love that Steen's approach is all about sustainability and affordability. It shows you don't have to compromise one for the other.
Absolutely. Okay, so Oma has given Steen all this amazing advice about raised beds and soil, but then she drops this bomb on him.
A bomb? What do you mean?
She introduces him to this whole other method called Hugelkultur.
Ah, Hugelkultur. It's like raised beds on steroids.
It is. She tells him about Sepp Holzer, this Austrian farmer who's a master of Hugelkultur.
He's like a legend in the permaculture world.
And he's doing some crazy things up in the Austrian mountains, creating these microclimates that allow him to grow stuff you wouldn't normally find at those altitudes.
Yeah, it's wild. Like he's defying nature in a way.
Oma even suggested that Steen and Kesser should save up for a trip to visit his farm.
Oh, wow. Talk about an immersive learning experience.
Right. To see these techniques in action firsthand, that would be incredible.
Okay, so for the learner who might be new to this, what exactly is Hugelkultur?
It's like a raised bed, but instead of just soil, you build it with a base layer of wood.
Logs, branches, that kind of thing.
Exactly. And this wood acts like a sponge, provides great drainage, but also holds moisture.
So it's regulating the water in both directions.
Right. And as that wood decomposes, it releases nutrients into the soil.
Like a built-in slow-release fertilizer.
And it's super sustainable. You're repurposing wood and organic matter that might have otherwise gone to waste.
Plus, it improves soil structure and fertility over time.
The source really emphasizes that bottom layer of wood as the key element of Hugelkultur. It's what sets it apart from a regular raised bed.
So it's all about creating that self-sustaining, nutrient-rich environment.
Now we can't talk about gardening without addressing the dreaded weeds.
Oh, yeah, the bane of every gardener's existence.
Steen was really drawn to the idea of using plastic weed control fabric.
It seems like an easy solution, right? Lay it down, no weeds, no chemicals.
Exactly. It sounds so tidy and convenient.
And Steen did mention that the neat and tidy aspect appealed to him, even though he had some concerns about the cost.
But then he remembered this video he saw of a more established kitchen garden, and the reality of that fabric was not pretty.
What happened?
It was all worn out and breaking down into little pieces. Microplastics everywhere.
Oh, no. Not good for the soil, not good for the environment.
And to top it off, the edges of the beds were still getting overrun with weeds.
So it wasn't even effective in the long run.
Which led Steen to the conclusion that the microplastic risk and the unsightliness, it just wasn't worth it.
It's a good reminder that sometimes those quick fixes, they come with hidden costs.
Exactly. So Kesser suggested using cardboard instead.
Oh, yeah. Such a better option.
It's biodegradable, it blocks sunlight, it smothers weeds, and as it breaks down, it adds organic matter to the soil.
It's a win-win.
Okay, so the learner As you're thinking about starting your own mini kitchen garden, what are the key things to remember?
Well, we've explored a lot of great options, from building raised beds to embracing the magic of Hugelkultur.
And we've talked about how to create healthy soil in sustainable and affordable ways.
It's all about thinking holistically, from the materials you use to the way you manage your space.
And a big takeaway, be wary of that plastic weed control fabric. The microplastic issue is a serious concern.
It's better to go with natural, biodegradable options.
So with all these ideas swirling around, what's the first step you can take? Maybe start collecting those kitchen scraps for compost or sketch out a spot for your raised bed.
Or maybe you're feeling ambitious and want to research Hugelkultur a bit more.
There are so many possibilities. It's all about finding what works for you and your space and taking that first step.
Exactly. So get out there, get your hands dirty, and let's grow some delicious food.
And until next time, happy gardening. Okay, so have you ever walked through a farmer's market, and seen all those amazing fruits and vegetables?
Oh, yeah, totally. Or even just watching a documentary about people living sustainably off the land and
Yeah.
growing their own food.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It just sparks this desire, right?
Yeah.
To kind of get back to basics.
Right.